culture. Even within Nigeria, our cultures are not the same. Not to talk of you're working with Britons, you're working with French, you're working with people who believes in LGBTQ. In Nigeria, we believe in the blood of Jesus. So being able to manage that and making sure that we're not crossing the lines in the area of compliance. We're still adapting some of the things we're doing. Most of the things we're doing to the legal frameworks of the country or the environment where we're doing business is very important. Of course, safeguarding because sometimes some of these initiatives is reaches to children, whatever gender, reaches to children, reaches to people who are domestically disadvantaged or abused. Safeguarding is required as part of what we should do. So we're not just saying, oh, did you wear harness when you were climbing the stairs, climbing the whatever, the scaffold? That is the case of, okay, is your staff protected? The people they're dealing with, are they protected? Are they exposed to sexual harassment or anything that can threaten their well-being? It's very important, right? So please confirm you can still hear me. Can I still be heard? Are we here together? Can somebody please mute and say they can hear me?
We can hear you.
Thank you.
Can hear you.
Thank you. So what are the risks involved, risks in that HR will have to manage in this kind of environment? The first risk, you see that is like repeating what you've said before. The first risk is short funding. Either the duration of the funding is short or the money is just like, is not even up to what we have to do. And when fund is not coming in the way it should come in, the challenge is staff layoffs because we can't even pay salaries. We can't pay for those who have, okay, Ronke is here, she's worked with Donor Agency. And you know that the one I'm familiar with, when you get that fund, there's a percentage. Well, for the one I've worked on, the ones I've worked on, 30% is allowed for operational use, and 70% will be for projects. I don't know if there's other organizations, maybe the other donor agencies that varies it, but it's usually maximum of 40% because you don't want to put all the money into flangering of buying beds for the owner of the charity or whatever, while the project itself suffers. Of course, we know that in Nigeria, anything goes. We've had allegations of people who would divert money meant for initiatives to personal use. Of course, 2 portions of rice is waiting for them. But for those who are doing it right, and especially when we work in a controlled international environment, and for those who are not working in international environment, have international mindset is very important. So short funding, the challenge for HR is having to lay off staff. It's for me, if I have to send someone away, if I have to terminate someone's appointment, it usually gives me headache. It's not something I look forward to doing. Of course, it still carries my signature as an HR. So I'll do it, but I'm sure a lot of people on this call will agree with me that it's usually not something easy for us to do, except if you are not an HR person. If you're just an administration, you find yourself in it. But if you are connected to the people, you will feel it because you think about how will they survive, whatever, except for those who are on gross misconduct. But if it is because the organization is actually having issues, then it's a problem. And how do we do this? How do we mitigate against this? Fixed term. And I'm sure you'll agree with me that when you see a lot of donor funded organizations, when you see their ads for job, you always see them fixed term contract. And the reason is, okay, we can guarantee this time. And you notice that it's usually like 1 year, they will now put renewable if you get money, even though they will not say that. But when that happens, at least you will guarantee that this one is there, we have this money, so you can bring in people. So if by the end of that cycle, money still comes for the next year. Oh, we are renewing your contract. Of course, we bring them back. Oh, this is what we are doing. Okay, because we've done this. Performance can now come into bear. Performance can now come to bear in this case. But when you're not sure, with that, so that you're not facing litigation. And listen, when people know that I'm here for 12 months, they know that 12 months is 12 months. Renewable, so when it's getting towards the end of 12 months, they can start looking for something else that they can move on to. And that's what some of the projects from World Bank, from other big organizations that funds projects, that is what they do. So it's usually fixed time. So, and let's employ that okay, because of the kind of thing we're doing, and because we are not, it's not your money, so you can't plan. You can't push just say, this is what I want. So because it's that, so the best way to handle it, so that you reduce the number of layoffs when you have to, or so that you don't even have that problem of laying off, use fixed term contract, so that at least for the time you're guaranteed for. And let me say this, as HR people, we cannot afford to fold our arms in any organization we work. We are business partners, we're strategic people. We are strategic to the business or to the foundation we're working in. So if the only thing that concerns you, if you think your HR is just about firing, hiring, you come to work, who has not come, who is late, who has not submitted, who is not, we cannot go on, then we're wrong. Because it's when you know what is going on, you have prior knowledge that you can plan. And then when you're planning, you can put things in place so that when you're hiring, apart from making sure that you follow what the donor organization, what the standards are, because sometimes they will give you that standard, maybe the expectation or anything. Apart from following that, you will be able to position the company the organization very well, the foundation, the CBO, the NGO appropriately, and then you can avoid a lot of things that will lead to litigation or work up people unnecessarily, or deny people of their right to job security. Very important. Another risk that we have to manage, not to us but for the entire organization, is burnout. Now, for those who work in NGOs and everything, you find out that they have field workers, and these field workers, they go around. If you're fortunate, I don't want to use the other word, to work in a smaller agency, you find out that even as HR, there will be times when you'll be asked, hey, God help you, just show that you know how to present and show that you have other skills apart from HRA. They might say, okay, come and go, and I'll give you a personal example too. There was a time we had a project, and this is not even a foundation, although this particular project was funded by one of the international organizations to our organization. And because we didn't have someone who could handle it then, I had to take it up for myself. Like, I became the program person for that period. And I was I would wake up in a state and sleep in another state. Saturday, I woke up in Oyo State, Ibadan. I slept in Abeokuta. I woke up in Abeokuta on Sunday. I slept in Ilorin on Sunday. I woke up in Ilorin on Sunday, Monday. I slept in Ado-Ekiti. And I was doing that back to back for me to be waking up in states and waking. So you know how I was. And by the time I was ending that trip after the round, I was getting to my house in Abeokuta about midnight the last day. And there's no need to say, were you burned out? I was not just burned, I was burnt in and burnt out. And this will happen especially with our field workers. So it might not be you as the HR person, but burnout is real. Burnout will happen because there's always something to do. Field workers will go for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, leave their family, go to work. They might come back with a burnout. Forget the fact that you put them in very good hotel. It's not their bed. Even if their own bed is 2.5, we have to put that in mind. So there's one of the challenges will be that they will have stress, that we will have people working in the organization who will be suffering from burnout and stress. And what can we do? Let's have our employee assistance program in place. Let's have times when we bring counselors, bring people that will talk of yoga and everything. We can have a yoga room somewhere where they can breathe. let the poor, let the field worker, let everybody breathe and breathe effectively. Then, of course, cultural conflicts. Those are the other. That's another thing that will likely happen. That the risk that we have to manage in this kind of environment. Because we have people who are from different tongues, different backgrounds, different orientations working together. There will likely be times when there will be a misunderstanding. Maybe in Nigeria, we don't allow same-sex marriage, and then you're trying to process somebody in, and the person say, "Oh, I'm bringing in my spouse. My name is Mr. James." And by the time they're submitting the spouse, you're seeing a male picture and you're seeing Mr. John. And here you cannot do marriage on the same level. So the question is, how do you manage it? And knowing what is required, knowing what the law says, and managing it. And intercultural training might be important for us as HR and for people, especially when it gets to the rural areas where people struggle. Maybe they're not even understanding the language, they're not understanding what you're saying, they're not even understanding the basis for what you're doing. Intercultural training comes to bear. It's not HR that's going to do it, but it's one thing that HR will need to quickly identify that we need to do this training for our staff, for our contractors, because there are times when we use contractors, for our staff, for our contractors, and for all stakeholders in this project so that everybody can work together and everybody is on the same page. And of course, compliance errors. There are times when there's error. I remember when I was working on that ActionAid project. Sometimes you don't even understand. You go to the training for days, they will lodge us. We know they understand. Okay, but some of us were busy having old age problem. We may not understand. So, and the same thing can happen to your staff. That does not mean they're dumb. It may just be that maybe whoever is explaining it is not explaining it well. So we need to be sure and that's okay. Everybody knows. And for compliance, it's good to make sure that we start that from induction. And we're going to get to the process, but start that from induction. Let people know what the compliance requirements are and let them sign it to be sure that I understand. If you don't understand, and of course, maintain an open door policy where people can ask questions from time to time. And of course, have a body in the compliance department, if you have one, who can always come in to talk to people, who can actually talk to you as HR. Because if you don't know something, there's no way you can uphold a law that you don't know about. So it's very important. So HR challenge can be the donor audit risk because donor is always auditing, they're always looking for the paperwork can be very, very daunting, but when it's done properly, then it can always kill. For those who work in charities and or NGOs and everything, they will tell you the whatever year it begins. I remember then I think our year will start at April. Whatever time the beginning of the year is, when it's getting to the end of the year, it's usually a stressful time because the compliance, the documentation, the reporting, the different forms to fill is usually a lot. But HR just must make sure that they have put their tracker in place that at every point, when HR has put the tracker in place that, okay, these are the compliance things, this is who owns it, and this is what compliance means. And they check every head of maybe unit head of department are always checking it to be sure, then that will not be a problem at the time. But these are risks, these are things that HR will have to deal with. These are the truths and the facts about donor funded environment. Are we still together? So, what are the core HR policies for donor funded organizations? I've only picked four, and these are things that we use anyway, except for maybe the safeguarding is what is not common to just maybe any other organization. I know for that it's health and safety and everything. And of course, health and safety is also part of it. But I'm just going to be talking about these four. Number one is recruitment and selection. Very important. The recruitment and selection process for a donor funded organization is expected to be as transparent as possible. If you see an ad from an IRC, that's what is IRC again? I've forgotten. One of the organizations in Nigeria. If you see their ad, the only thing it will not say is the color of your intestine. it will be as explicit as possible. And I'm giving us this task for those who are not working in that kind of environment. After this training, try and check on jobs, try and check and look maybe on LinkedIn or Indeed, check vacancies of organizations like this. You see that they are always very clear. They're clear. They will talk about diversity. They will talk about safeguarding. They will talk about everything. So the recruitment process must be transparent. Now, I said earlier that there are times when the donor says we want XY number of people or percentage of your manpower to be international, and this could be that they want it in say in Nasarawa, not just in Lagos. They want it in Nasarawa because that is what maybe the part of the terms of engagement. That okay, when you're going to do this particular initiative in this place, you're going to involve our people. So maybe they're saying, okay, you need 100 people, 25 must be women because of gender for gender balance, and then diversity and inclusion. Yeah, maybe 25 must speak Hausa very well. They must come from this locality. You don't want to bring somebody from Igbo or whatever, because again, maybe because if you bring somebody from outside, they will pursue the person with cutlass. So let the person who belongs to Caesar be in Caesar's house. So very important. So transparency is key, and of course, equitable procedures are very, very important. So transparent, equitable procedures, and then donor aligned selections. I mentioned earlier before. He who pays the piper dictates the. And at times when they're strict with their requirements, you must have uh, ethnic minority on your team. You must have women on your team. You must have people with disability on your team. And you're expected to follow through with that so that by the time they're doing your audit or you're submitting your end of year report, every of those factors are being considered, and they're seeing that okay, you have aligned your recruitment to that, and then you have aligned your recruitment to that, and your manpower has this diversity. Very important, of course. Recruitment metrics to balance local and expatriate roles, which I had mentioned earlier. So when we are doing that, everything we're doing must follow what the funding organization wants. Not that we don't have our own policy. Of course, we have our policy, but there will have to be a blend between what we have on ground and what they're requesting for. And of course, it's not a hook, line, and sinker thing. The times that will be like, no, this is what will work in this environment because we are on the ground. But of course, we're still expected to work with what the person who's paying us is giving us. Are we together? So compensation and benefits. So when we talk of the policies that we have to put in place, and are very, very key, compensation and benefits. Fair pay within donor ceilings, very important. Now, it's sometimes, and we have it even not within the donor funded organizations. We have it in other organizations where we have expatriates, for example, and we have local hires. You're having your expatriates who is dancing, romancing with Yemoja because they want to do meet and greet with Yemoja every night. So they say they want a house by the seaside, and then they have swimming pool, and then we don't know what they do with those spirits in the water. And then they're in Plantain Island, Sugarcane Island, and then you have your own the local staff coming from wherever again. Sometimes that disparity can cause there can be something that you'd be like, okay, but when you have your transparent compensation and benefits process and a policy in place, everybody knows where they are. Either you're living in Plantain Island or you're living in Popo Island. Either you're romancing Yanoja or you are buying Titus fish on the way to Oshodi. Everybody knows where they are. But whatever we're doing, we must ensure that the pay is fair and of course within what the donor approves. So it's not a case of we have approved 5 million for our CEO because he or she is a CEO and they must make a lot of if it doesn't fall within what the donor is providing, then we can't go beyond it. and of course, localized salary bands. The salary band must be as fair to international staff and as fair to local workers. And of course, we'll have to put in place non-monetary incentives also. Employee wellness, maybe shawarma once in a week or once in a month. I'm just saying, incentives can be anything to anyone. For some people, it is send me to school, London, Lagos Business School to go and do 2 days. Some people, it is give me gifts, give me plaque. You decide what works for the environment where you're working, but it's very, very important. And of course, number three, performance and learning. Performance will have to be guided closely because so policy that has to be put in place because whoever is putting their money, where they're putting their money, they're putting their mouth also. So we must be able to prove to them that we are using their money judiciously. We're doing what we said we should do. And one of the ways, the policies we can put in place for this is OKR, objective key result. What is the objective? What are the key results? What is the plan? What is the breakdown of what we want to achieve? What are the tasks that we need to be done? And what percentage are we assigning to the weight of each task that will culminate in 100% delivery? We'll have to put that in place, and that will be tied to log frames. Log frames is the reporting stuff that is used about for donor agencies. That is part of the reports that goes to donor agencies when we're giving reports about how the money has been managed. And while we're doing that, peer learning, we're learning from each other, maybe weekly meetings, stand-up meetings, somebody's coming to talk about something that has to do with the project or maybe outside the project, and of course, capacity building for sustainability. So as HR people, when we work in a donor-funded organization, we have to put policies in place that will be clear about performance, individual performances, departmental performances, and of course, the whole organization performance tied together. And of course, we must have policies in place for learning and capacity building so that we can sustain the people, the process, and everything going on. And of course, safeguarding is very, very mandatory, is very, very important when we talk about donor-funded organizations. So when we talk about safeguarding, we're talking about making sure putting policies in place to help defend things or to make sure that things does not happen. We're safeguarding adults, we're safeguarding staff from sexual abuse, for example. We're safeguarding staff from receiving bribe from people we're putting when this. So safeguarding can mean anything, mean different things to different organizations. For the ones I've worked with organizations that manages women initiatives and tech initiatives. For those who are working in organizations where their own initiatives are tailored towards young adults or girls, I've worked with girls, but that's on volunteer basis. We know that girls are very vulnerable. So, for example, you're doing sexual education for them. You want to be sure that they're protected, not that part of the people who are even doing the training are pedophiles. You want to be sure of that. So how do you ensure that when you're putting the policy in place, it's included in your induction? Very, very important. When people are coming, you take them through safeguarding requirements, and of course they sign that they understand, and of course confidential reporting channels, so that you know that okay, you can whistle blow if you think somebody is going out of the way, maybe somebody is acting in an untoward way towards another person, especially when the person this is affecting is helpless, cannot defend themselves. So, for example, if you're working with children with learning disability, maybe they have autism, Down syndrome, or anything, they can't defend themselves. And we've heard stories of them getting pregnant. Now, nobody gets pregnant by themselves. A man must have done something to them. So, safeguarding helps to protect their interests, protect them, and make sure that nobody's crossing the line when it has to do with them. And of course, there must be clear escalation protocols when something is noticed that is not right. Whistleblowing policy is very important. People must be able to blow whistle, not but being able to, we know what that is, that to be able to say something is wrong somewhere. I notice this person is talking to this person. I know this is happening. And then, of course, when that comes to us as HR, we follow the policy of investigation. We have to investigate thoroughly to be sure we're not assuming or somebody is not having ideas that they should not be having just to implicate the other person. Are we together? And I hope we're getting something. So let's look at recruitment policy, practice example. A donor-aligned selection with equal opportunity principles. So when you're doing this, you use a recruitment matrix template to score. Is this person a technical fit? Have they passed this safeguarding clearance? Okay. The impacts, localization impacts, when I was talking about the fact that, oh, we're in Nasarawa, get locals to do this job so far they can do it. And of course, the cost, very important. If we're getting this person, are they asking for more money? Are we going to pay extra or beyond what the budget is for the role? Those are the things. And of course, we balance local hires with required expatriate skills. And when we're doing that, we should document justification for each expatriate rule. The questions, and we've had it asked at different times. I'm sure even people on this line will have asked, why do you bring in an expatriate to Nigeria with the kind of education we have? When Dangote was launching, I know a lot of people show shades that how come the big roles are occupied by expatriates, and we're saying there are no Nigerians who can manage it. Now, while we don't know why Mr. Dangote took that decision, but when it has to do with a donor agency, we want to find out, are we putting the white face so that they can give us credibility? Because sometimes that happens in the part of the world when they see a white person, even if they're not as like they're intelligent wise, they might say, oh, this is one of us, okay, and then we can listen to you. Is that why we're doing this? Even though we may not be able to tell the donor agency, but we have to be as practical as possible, whatever we are doing. So when we're doing this, we must rate candidates against the criteria we've been given, and of course, the priority for the job. Are we getting something? Are we getting something? I need a feedback.
Yeah, we are with you.
Thank you, thank you. So ethical recruitment, that's for anything we've talked about all the while. The first things is the first line of defense for anything that can happen is recruiting, following ethics when you're recruiting. So ethical recruitment, that's the first line of defense. That okay, we're going to get in trouble, we're not going to get into trouble, or whatever. The money is going to be enough, it's not going to be enough. The first thing is when we're, because it starts from when we're recruiting. How are we doing it? If we get it right, we might get some other things right. So ethical recruitment, the first line of defense. We're embed safeguarding in the process when you're doing your recruitment. So it's not there are no gray areas. Communicate it in the vacancies, communicate it during in the interviews, communicate it during the induction, communicate it, and when they come in, let it keep sounding that we have to do so. For safeguarding, embed it in the process, including safeguarding language in adverts. I mentioned that you may want to check adverts after this meeting. Standard interview questions, and of course, contract clauses. I mentioned something earlier that the best way to handle is put people on contract. So you're coming in and I'm advertising, I'm saying, oh, I need a program manager for a 1-year contract, fixed contract, renewable in front, because I know that maybe World Bank might decide to still say continue with the project. But because they know they're coming for 1 year, I don't owe them anything after 1 year. If we don't get funded, we can always shake ourselves, have dinner together and say, all the best in your new job or all the best in your next project. And then everybody's happy. So that's part of it. So embed safeguarding in the process, make it clear. And of course, when we talk about vetting, background checks, you cannot but almost overdo it when it has to do with working in a donor funded organization. Because again, if you are working with some set of people, okay, if you work in some clients, in United Kingdom, for example, if you have to work with people with learning disability or work in a nursing home or work with anything that has to do with care, you're expected to go through, and even some other jobs, you're expected to go through DBS, Disclosure and Barring Service, which is a background check organization that will do a background check to be sure you're not a sex offender or whatever. While we may not have enough information online, except looking for digital footprints here, and maybe speaking to the people, the organizations that people have claimed they've worked, it's always very important to do a lot of checks. And I would recommend that in this case, get digital footprints. It's very important because sometimes people's digital footprints, especially on social media, a lot of people let down their guards when they're looking for gentle care and insulting somebody's pastor, or they're defending their pastor, the God of my papa will kill you. You want to know that kind of person, and then you want to bring in a killer, and of course, reference checks. I read something on LinkedIn this afternoon when somebody was talking about the importance of actually vetting people before you bring them in. This person wrote that somebody had a fantastic CV, and they came as a salesperson and had mentioned that they had worked for some big organizations. And of course, you know how we do our CV, puts in place whatever that brought 75% increase in sales, that all those buzzwords, those good words. And then the person also was blessed with oratory power, spoke their way through interview, and they did well. But of course, they were giants during interview, and on their CV, when they came in, they became cats. And the HR was worried, what's going on here? Why is this person's performance not aligning with who they said they were? And then this person reached out of curiosity, reached out to one of the organizations that the staff had said they were working. And the person on the HR there said, no, we've never had a staff with this name. So this person got in, and so you don't know how many people are quoting that. So it will be good to do all these checks, and it's actually good to do it before they come in, not when they are coming, because if they are coming, they might now begin to say, oh, I've left the job. Let's do all our vetting, and here we've recommended minimum of 3 reference checks. And of course, misconduct disclosure schemes. Maybe you'll have to get an independent background check organization to help. That way you can reduce hiring risk. Is very important. Of course, local and gender balanced recruitment, whatever you're doing, prioritize local hires. Very, very important. They can make or mar a project. So, and when you are doing that, even if you're going to bring people from any other environment to work in another environment, please ensure that when you're putting policies in place, it's communicated. I'll give you an example. Say you're working in Core North, the project is in Core North, but you have your HQ in Lagos. Now in Lagos, an employee may be very okay with wearing a miniskirt or maybe a pants to work and everything, depending on the dress code. These days, people do jeans and everything. But if they're going to do an intervention in Melbourne, please let them know, let it be part of what will have been communicated during induction. They will have to change to something flowing and maybe put a scarf, depending, because there is either they're not listening to them, or they might actually will become a victim of religious disturbance if they feel that, oh, why is this person acting like this? So we have to know the environment where we're doing our intervention and adapt to that. Is very, very important. So prioritize local hires and gender balance, very important to strengthen community trust and our program relevance. So let's talk about compensation, motivation, and well-being. You can see the different money there. We all need money. So in this kind of place, it's very important because sometimes the salary may have to be fixed because the project for the 1 year, is 20 million, and only 4 million of it is allowed for staff salaries and everything. How do we manage it? We'll pay band A, and band A is not funny. We'll pay different, maybe we're paying Starlink and everything. By the time you're almost there, whatever is remaining. So because that is fixed, how do you now manage it? How do you manage to be sure that, okay, even though the salary is fixed, people's lives are not fixed? So number one is introduce non-monetary incentives, can be professional development. And when you're doing that, please add that maybe you'll be working with by the time we are having maybe the management meeting or whatever, planning the year, or writing the concept notes, that should be parts integrated into what will be needed for operational cost, professional development, career progression, and of course, recognition schemes. So the little awards, the little voucher for dinner, and everything. These are things that will promote well-being and will motivate your staff to want to do more. And of course, two, localized salary bands tied to market benchmarking and donor limits. While donor limit is very important, we also need to also benchmark with other people doing the same thing with us, so that we're sure that we're not going to start having people move to other people. As much as it's not a competition, but you want that continuity. If people keeps leaving your project, the project will suffer. So localized salary bands, tied to market benchmarking, very important. How much does IRC pay? How much does World Bank pay on this kind of project? How much do they pay program officer one, program officer two, program manager? How much do they pay the project manager? It's good to know, so that when you're doing, you can benchmark effectively. Very important. Of course, we've mentioned that prioritize well-being, very, very important. Employee assistance programs. It can be the holidays. There'll be the times when it's okay, everybody, let's go to the beach, just go and swim. Regular rest cycles, debrief after field. And when people go for field missions, debrief, very, very important. Debrief, let them know they're appreciated. And of course, motivate them to want to go for another one. I know that field workers always like to go to the field because they get a lot of per diem out of station and everything. But sometimes money is not the motivation. So we have to make sure that they're motivated effectively. So how do we build local HR capacity for sustainability? Number one, tailored HR system. We must support partners. When I say partners, the people we're working with, the stakeholders, even the people, the organizations that are supporting us, say in the area of training, we must support them to develop recruitment, performance, and grievance system adapted to local law and culture. On one of the projects, I think it's one of the slides, we had to work with different stakeholders. So we didn't only have the project ourselves. It was a donor funded project, and I was like the project manager for that. Interesting thing, even though I was head of HR in that organization, and was able to, okay, even when they're hiring, was able to, we were providing support, we were giving them, oh, this is how to do this, how not to do this, because we are the ones who had the project and we know what our donors are requiring. And of course, collaborative learning, knowledge sharing. For us, we had the 30-minute stand-up meetings every 2 days, so we can bring that in. And those stand-up meetings can be on knowledge sharing time. It might be training. It might even be a time when you're relaxing and sharing ideas. You will not understand how much people learn. In one of the organizations that I've worked in the past, we had something called Oh Sugar Moment, and that was always handled by HR. And HR can come and say, today we're talking about anything. It's Oh Sugar. So instead of saying the F word, we say, oh, sugar. It might just be, what did you do over the weekend? Oh, sugar. Over the weekend, this is what happened and everything. And then we found out that, number one, this helped us to bond more, and we got to know a lot of things about love. And there are times when we bring individuals, we say, oh, today we're talking about this person, we're giving feedback, and people will come out to say, oh, sugar, I think this person did. So very, very important. So collaborative learning, not just formal learning, for something that can bring us together, very important. So we're building capacity, and of course, long-term investment will be funding HR capacity building, ensures continuity after donor transition. So because there will be times when these transitions will happen, Say, for example, it came and it was just 1 year, and then the donor organizations are not renewing or they're not giving you money anymore. That project will have to wind down, and the HR will need to know how to wind that down with the people so that is everybody is happy, even though they're going to lose their jobs. You're smiling as you're going back to the job market, even though you have actually, like, it's this. And there are times when it doesn't even get to that 1 year. It doesn't even get to what you think, and being able to manage it very well. I'm one that believes that manage exits, manage anything to avoid litigation and bad publicity. So one of the things that we need to do, HR also needs to be taught how to manage it, especially during transitions, in order to enhance program outcomes. I'm running so that we don't take international standards guiding HR. I've put 3 here. So they call frameworks shaping HR practice. That's international standards. So number 1 is ICRC professional standards. That is talks about staff safety and ethical duties. This emphasizes the need for staff to comply with safety rules, because number 1 is it's only when you're safe that you can help others. So maintain discipline in high risk situation. For example, you have staff who are working in volatile areas. We know volatile areas in Nigeria that if you're sending somebody there, even you, that's your HR, you'll be pleading anything you know. You'll be talking to the God that you know at that time, except if you don't care. But I know a lot of us are caring. So this framework supports needs emphasizes the need for staff to comply with safety rules, maintain discipline in high risk situation, protect yourself. Your safety is first of all your responsibility before it becomes the organization's responsibility, and of course uphold principles like confidentiality, impartiality, and dignity. So this standard is a wholesome standard that talks about safety, discipline, confidentiality, impartiality, and everything. So these are standards, and it's what any organizations that will work in this ecosystem will be expected to have in place and follow to the letter. Another one is the UNHCR guidelines 2021, which talks about decent work for displaced populations. So, for example, let's say we find someone working with an organization where they work with people in displaced communities. For example, we have that in the north. That emphasizes that decent work includes productive, fairly paid work, workplace security, social protection, and the freedom to participate in decisions that affect their lives. So these are, again, another framework, framework that shapes what we do in this ecosystem. And of course, we have the third one, which is IFRC PSA policy, which talks about zero tolerance and institutional duties. This establishes a zero tolerance stance against sexual exploitation and abuse. Now, we've heard stories about some gentlemen that left from Nigeria to the United Kingdom, and I think US, who saw a big girl, they liked her, the weather is cold, and then they start talking to the person without asking for the age. And then what is sexual abuse in Nigeria is not sexual abuse in other countries. And what is sexual abuse in other countries is not sexual abuse in Nigeria. Nigeria itself, when you do it, if people are complaining, they shut up. Shebi is the girl that carried her body. Didn't you see how she dressed? But there, if you like, don't wear clothes. The man, if they try anything, they might go to jail for that. So this is talking about this policy is global, and it's like zero tolerance for sexual abuse, and which means a commitment to immediate action when consent is raised. So if anybody raises and look at it from this angle, if these policies are not in place, if this is not followed, now you have a colleague that's come from the United Kingdom, and you're doing to one of the people you are taking care of, or maybe one of the people in the locality. If they report the person, they can't say, no, I did not do it, it's the devil's work. They don't do devil's work there. They do legal work, and the person will be expected to follow, to go through the full wrath of the law. So it's very important. So What are the risk management tools? So we've talked about the risk. What are the tools that we can use? Of course, number one, HR policy compliance tracker. That can be, if your organization has it, fine. If not, you can develop this on an Excel and you have it. What are the policies? What is the compliance level? Who is the owner? Who is the responsible owner? Who, when we say owner, who is responsible for managing it or for ensuring compliance? And then the evidence and of course the dates, the audit dates. They want to know, is there anybody breaking this? Is there training? Is this communicated? Very important. Another one is the rapid HR audit template. Which is you have an audit. We always will say within 30 days of getting into a donor funded environment, please do a staff audit. You want to know the people there, you want to know their qualifications, you want to know if they have gone through safeguarding, you want to know if they know the processes and the policies, you want to know if they've flouted any of the rules before, and then you want to know if there's any gap so that you can quickly plug in to ensure that you don't go through any issue or there's no compliance issue. And of course, another thing is a salary benchmarking tool, align pay bands with local market. You may want to find out, and I know I've seen a couple of them on the HR mentorship platform where people say, does anybody have an idea how much this particular sector pays? You may want to find out from people on this in our groups. You may want to check online. You may want to ask AI if that is what will give you. But please make sure that you get this so and then you get the right information, and then you can do the analysis to see where you fall. Are you falling continuously below the average, or you're above average or within average? Then you can advise appropriately the owners of the people you report to. And if you're blessed to be a major stakeholder, that helps to form some of your decisions when you're recruiting and when you're promoting, when you're doing your performance management or salary reviews. Very important. So safeguarding and code of conduct, the action checklist, when we talked about it, this is what we've talked about. It starts from induction. Safeguarding must be discussed during induction, as in cover everything. Don't be in a hurry during induction. And then, of course, there must be ongoing training because things might change. Things might change. An incident may have, sometimes you learn from experience. So maybe something has happened. You want to quickly bring your people to say, oh, Mr. A actually did this. Do you think this is a compliance issue? Do you think this is a safeguarding issue? And then trash it, let people know. And then, of course, there must be confidential reporting. People being able to, number one, you must be able to report things confidentially, and people should be able to report things to you confidentially. So there must be that. If it has to be mystery, shopping mystery, notes or something, that must be put in place. And then, of course, investigation and protection. So, for example, somebody has come to whistleblow about a particular person, and this person may even be somebody big in the system. They must be protected. Because if they're not protected, if you now say, Mr. Danley Koko has said this, and this other person can now begin to give them problem and then maybe use their powers to put them. So this is very important. We have to make sure that safeguarding is very important, and code of conduct that guides based on what the funders, their policies and everything. So we must be able to merge our policy with the policies of the funders. Rosin. So this is a good example. This is a project I worked on. It was STEM for girls, no STEM, science, technology, in what is E? Mathematics, E is engineering, yes, for 1,000 schoolgirls in Ogun State. And this project was in partnership with the University of Connecticut and Ministry of Education. Now, these were the stakeholders. So because one of the things we'll do as HRs, if you work in this kind of environment, we'll do a lot of stakeholder management. We're going to be talking to vendors. We're going to be talking to other people, not just our own people. And so when we got the brief to handle this project, I handled this as I was the lead project for this project. We had to design policies to meet the standard. They gave us a couple of guidelines, what they want, what it will include, the kind of people. And so we looked at it vis-a-vis the kind of environment we're in. Ogun State is not Lagos, but Ogun State has a lot of schools. And but in this case, it was secondary school students they were targeting. So where do we go? Is it private? Is it public? Who do we talk to? Ministry of Education. That was how Ministry of Education came in, because it was then we discovered that we can't just go to school, even though we have very good intentions. We can't just go to school and say, oh, we have this intention, we want to train you, whatever, because we have partners in the US. No, we have to go through them, get approvals, and then we start writing the schools. So how did we handle this? Number one, we did the trainer recruitment, because that training, some of the part of that program, the training was from the guys in Connecticut, the University of Connecticut. And some of the training were to be done by local facilitators. And we didn't have some of those skills. So we had to do call for application, vet it, the people, vet the organizations and the individuals that advertised, that came in based on a call for application, did a bit of checks. It wasn't a lot of checks like if it was an employment, it was just a project. And then we did that. And then, of course, we engaged volunteers. We did call for volunteers also. And then we defined what kind of volunteers doing it. And everything we're doing it based on the fact that, okay, the girls must be safe. The environment where we are going to have the place, we have to look at the halls, we have to plan the whole environment. This is how they will come in. And these are things that we might fall into our hands as HRs in this kind of environment. But we must be able to step out of that HR bandage and be able to say, oh, even though I'm a manager, I have the bandage here. On this side, I have project management. On this side, I have administration. And of course, safeguarding and child protection. That was key, because these are girls, secondary school girls. They may want to wander. They may want to do anything. We don't want anybody just showing up and then taking somebody. Kidnapping can happen and everything. So protection was very important. Of course, we got the data from the school, and we had to sign non-disclosure. We're not allowed to release the data, even though we got the names of the students, we got everything. We were not allowed, and of course, we gathered it with our lives. In fact, that was on my system for a long time before it was moved to cloud. It was because we wanted, and by the time we're doing the report, we only we had to block out some information, because even for them in Connecticut and Ministry of Education, we knew that data privacy was key. But what am I saying in this? We manage the stakeholder engagement through and through, and we're able to have eventually an event that was without any form of negative incidents, because the safeguarding was put in place. The people who worked were trained to the security. Everybody was trained, and everybody had. We were having constant check-off meetings, stand-up meetings. Okay, so we're nearing the end, and thank you for sticking with me. So managing donor requirements and compliance. So there will always be requirements. Some of them might be reasonable, some of them might not be, but we must manage it. Don't forget, whoever pays the piper, it takes the tune. So donor rules and local law, they are the things that shape our system as HR in this case. So, so the practical approach will be that, number one, we have transparent HR records and auditable policies aligned. You notice that I put the aligned in bold and underlined. Very, very, that alignment is very important. It's better than the alignment in your car. This alignment was there. It must align with funding conditions. We want to give you 20 million to do this project. Whatever we're doing, we must be transparent in our HR records. We got 10 program managers. This is what we're paying them. This is what they're doing and everything, so that if anything happens and they want to audit our policies or audit whatever we have done, we will know that it aligns. So we must have first-hand information about the funding conditions. Very important. Again, as HR, we cannot fold our hands and sit in our air-conditioned office and feel I'm just an HR. No, you're a partner in the business, you're a partner in the foundation, you're a partner in the organization. And you must have first-hand information. about what is going on. You're not the one that will be, and we have to be savvy too. We have to be business savvy. It's not when they're talking figures, you're looking. You're looking. If you're not too sure, ask questions. I always say it to anywhere I've worked. If I'm not sure, I'll raise my hand. I'm shameless like that. Say, I want to ask you stupid question. If you like, abuse me. I've always said, I have a stupid question to ask. The first time I heard about OKR, I didn't know anything OKR. But I asked, and nobody laughed at me. Interestingly, nobody had laughed at me. But even if they had laughed at me, it won't bother me. I don't know it today. Now I know. Once you tell me, I know it. Tomorrow I have known it. So, and the things that I know that you don't know. So we're fine. So, transparent HR records and auditable policies aligned with funding conditions. Protect staff confidentiality while meeting reporting obligations. So when you're reporting, when you're doing your reporting, please protect your staff confidentiality. Very, very important. That is not when to say, oh, this. Go straight to the point. There's usually reporting templates that needs to be followed. Be as concise as possible. And of course, use tools, e.g. NRC to handle sanctions and counter-terrorism risk without undermining neutrality. So there are two kits that we will have. Okay, did they pass whatever? Did they check for whatever? Did they have to go for get security and everything? Everything that has been put in place, just make sure that okay, this has been put in place, and and then you're not exposing your staff to terrorism or anything that can bring risk to them, because you want them to go to the field and come back safe without you having to necessarily pray a lot of prayers. You still pray, but not that you're not, oh God, fire, oh God, fire. No, very, very important. So design privacy safe reporting and separation of duties between HR and program compliance team. So for us, we must work very well with program compliance team, because that will help us to be sure that the people who are working in programs, those that who are working on the different projects, they are complying with what the donor conditions are. Very important. So in closing, um, I'm imploring us to balance compliance with compassion. Let's bring HR to human resource. Let's bring humanity, humanity. So let it not be about compliance only. Let it not be about the records only. Let's bring compassion into whatever we're doing. So balancing compliance with compassion is what I'm calling us to do. Effective HR, the word effective, not just HR, protects people and the sustained program impact. So the program is there, it must have the impact that is required. But while you're doing that, you're not sacrificing your people. You're not the one that is beating people down and saying we must do it because we're waiting for this particular check from ActionAid, so all of you can start working on your head. No, very, very important. So balance compliance with compassion. And of course, I'll say adopt a recruitment matrix and compliance tracker for your next project. For those who are working, we talked about that already. Adopt it, have that recruitment matrix, the technical, the cost and everything. And then, of course, compliance tracker. What is compliance? What are the things that we need to comply to? Who is the owner? And then what is the percentage? What's the percentage? Okay, for example, if somebody was working on an ambulance, you cannot be the one that doesn't know what to do per time. You must know what to do. Same thing, that compliance tracker, what is compliance to this person may not be the same, but spelling it out and making sure that you have that. So have that in place. And then within 30 days, either from now or when you're joining the company, run a rapid HR audit and review safeguarding induction materials. Very important. It must be clear, it must be understandable. And of course, prioritize peer learning, very important. Localization, making sure that the local people are involved, and then you learn a lot from people. They may not have all the education, they may not speak the polished English, but trust me, they have something to offer. And of course, the well-being of your people is also very important. So we've come to the best slide, and that says, thank you for listening to me this evening. I need feedback and I need questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. This has been awesome presentation in the words of Dr. Adeosun. Awesome presentation. It's like you have packaged the whole of INGO operations into this presentation. This is fantastic. It's phenomenal, using the words of Dr. Adeosun. Thank you. Thank you so much. Doctor, you want to take it over from here? Okay, while we are waiting, I don't think he's on this call. We can, if you have any question, please kindly raise up your hand so that we can take your questions before we call it a wrap tonight. Okay, while we are waiting for anyone to raise up their hands, I can relate with every single thing you have said because I have been in the INGO space before, and so I understand everything. In fact, every section you were taking, I was following and flowing along with you. So I have quite a number of things, but I'll see the ones that come to my head. Okay, let's start with recruitment. You agree with me that most INGOs recruitment nowadays, they have fixed term recruitments that they are doing. So in Nigeria, we also have some INGOs and they do fixed term contracts in their recruitment. What do you say to organizations that use that to threaten and beat people in line? Because it's a fixed term contract, and in a country like Nigeria where you have high unemployment rates, and then you are given a contract of probably 2 years, and then you say your contract is coming to an end, you have to do this. So what do you have to say to that? That's one. Then secondly, we talked about compensation and benefit also in the INGO space. Sometimes, okay, let's talk about projects. Sometimes you can be in an INGO and then donor-funded projects will come in to the INGO. The INGO has its remuneration, budgeted for. It has its payments denominated in local currency and paid in local currency, right? So if there's a project that comes in with foreign currency into that INGO, how do you expect them to manage it if, staff on that project, if you denominate their pay into the local currency and the INGO staff that are being remunerated in the local currency pay will be ridiculously low compared to the project staff that were budgeted for in foreign currency, now denominated to local currency. There will be huge disparity in that compensation of the project staff and the INGO core staff. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying, but
Yes,
how do you propose that this? Let me just stop there so that I don't let us go too much into details. But I understand perfectly well because I belong to the INGO space also. Thank you for this wonderful SOP that you have given us today.
Thank you. Okay, I will answer the second question, then you repeat the first question, because truth is, I don't remember it. For organization, and this happens even when it's not INGO, it happens in organizations where you have, for example, my immediate past job, on paper, I'm earning a particular amount in dollars. On papers, that's what goes to the shareholders and the funders into the business. On paper, I'm earning in dollars, but in my accounts, I'm earning in Naira. And the company I was working with, they were the ones determining the exchange rate. And trust me, the exchange rate has nothing to do with what the exchange rate is in the market. Now, these
Yes.
are unfair practices in some of our organizations. When you have human resources who have a say, then the HR person can put their foot down and say, this is what we have promised people. This is what we have. However, you may not be able to win the fight if when a person, including you, the HR, if when you were coming into the company, you've been told your salary is 500,000 net. So even if they got on the papers, you find out later that, oh, your position is saying that you're earning $1,500 per month. We know $1,500 is not 500,000. Okay, no, it's more. Okay, no. Or maybe on this thing, 1,500 is how much?
Yes,
that's
you are
what
very
I mean.
correct.
Yes.
You are very correct.
Yes. So
You are very correct.
even if that is what you may not be able to fight that, oh, this is because now that's where principle of agreement comes in. You agreed, you signed the contract. That can bring a dissatisfaction, but it is what it is in our environment. A lot of times, and I'm going to say this, a lot of times, especially when it's even now local, the greed shows in some of the things that happens, and determines, and it depends on why the INGO or the NGO or whatever foundation was set up in the first place. If it was set up to make money, and the story I told, some of us were not here when we started. I told the story of Ayo. Ayo was moved from HR to head a foundation, and she was given a target of $250,000 for the first year of registration. Now, when this target was given, the foundation had not even been registered. So sometimes people have NGOs, they have this because it's a meal ticket or it's a get rich quick thing to them. But agreement is agreement. The only thing you can do is maybe when you're coming in, make sure to have put yourself in the right distance and negotiate very well. But if you come in and you find out that on your head it is dollar, but you have been localized to naira, it's two things. You either stay or you take a walk. In my case, when I noticed that it was my first month, I noticed that so this is the amount they're paying me. And I remember a time I made case that let's change everybody's salaries to dollars. Of course, it wasn't approved. But as that when dollar became 1,000 naira to a dollar, the rate they were calculating salaries at was 480. So you can see the disparity is there. So for example, if you say Miss Ajanle Coco is earning $1,000, to the people are there, oh, $1,000. If they look at the this thing, if they look at the exchange rate, oh, that's a million naira. But this person is earning 480,000. And so this happens a lot. Is either it is what it is. It's either you cope, but if you have agreed when you're coming in, agreement is agreement. They're not obligated to change it for you. I hope that answers your question, Uncle K. What's the second? What's the first question you asked? I've forgotten.
You are very right. That is actually how they do in this NGO. I mean,
so
their
you
exchange
asked a
rate.
question before that one.
Yes. I'll come to it. You are very correct about the analysis. I'm very satisfied. The other one was about recruitment and fixed term contracts that NGOs are doing, which is the trend in the NGOs nowadays, and how people are using it as a weapon and as a threat for their employees.
Okay, I get that. Thank you very much for that question. I'm going to throw this to all of us who are HRs on this line. Like they say on the street, some of us know they try. I've seen HRs that will be like, and you call yourself an HR. And so I think we can do better as people who are managing people and culture in our organizations. Nobody should be threatened because their contract is coming to an end. I signed a contract for 1 year, and 1 year it is. So a contract is supposed to bind on both sides. But sometimes because a lot of people don't know what the law says, we're not using Jimmy Agbaje now. A lot of people are not saying, don't know what the law says. So it's in Nigeria that you just fire somebody at will and they will cry. They will go to church, God, why me? And then that is the end. In other climes, some of the things we endure here, we cannot even do half of it. You understand? So we cannot just come, and even when it's a donor issue, that money where we have to wind down, you have to manage it effectively well as HR. We have to manage it, not to say that is, and I may be wrong. I have people who are more experienced than me on this call. A time when you're winding down or things are going bad is not when you have to now start saying, hey, you have not been performing. Truth is, if somebody's been working for 2 years, you've not complained about their performance. It cannot be when you're having issues. Maybe you're already owing them salaries that you're not going to bring it up that, hey, you have not been performing. I will sue the hell out of everything that has to do with that organization. Because it's time that organizations begin to know that employees have rights, just like the organization also have rights. And those gaps are always created by HR. One, because some, they don't know better, or some of them, they're used to toxicity, it's become part of them, or they just want to be in the good books of the boss. So if they say, go and kill all, not literally, but go and do something, so far it does not affect me, oh, it's fine. And when they affect them, they take it to God. So enough of taking everything in the workplace to God. Let's take some to court. Maybe that will bring sanity. I would answer your questions. That answered your question.
You have adequately answered all my questions. But on a last note, now that we have Dr. Adeosun back on the call, a true life situation now, in one of these INGOs, relating to the last question I asked about fixed term contract, an employee was given a fixed term contract of, say, 3 years, and then renewable every 3 years. And in this particular third year of the last contract, they did not communicate to the employee that they were not going to renew. And on the last day, in fact, the last 1 hour to close of business, the employee was just told, please submit your ID card. And the guy was like, why? We've always been renewing. Even though the last one, you didn't even communicate. I kept working. It was much into the contract that it was renewed. What's going on? 1 hour to the end of close of business that day. What do you say to that?
That's a communication problem. But because the last contract is signed says it might not be renewed, it might not be able to fight in the law court. But
no, it says it's renewable.
I think a lot of people, you said?
The contract says it's renewable.
Yeah, renewable doesn't mean that it will be renewed. It may be, it's a probability. When you say renewable, it's probability. It might be renewed, it might not be renewed. But somebody certainly dropped the ball there, and somebody was supposed to have communicated, even if it's in fact, it shouldn't be the last month. The last 3 months, when you know you are not going to keep this person, a formal communication is supposed to have gone out to say, we've seen your good work. However, please note that please note that your contract will be ending on so day, and it will not be renewed. That way, that person can start looking for a job or whatever. But waiting for 1 hour before, I don't know if it's village people, but somebody certainly should be flogged, not flogged literally, but somebody has not done what they're supposed to do. And if that happens in an organization that I know of, one of the people that will blame will be the HR person, because that communication was supposed to have happened. The same person who's been talking to him during the renewal. So if it's not going to happen, they should have communicated. So not communicating is very wrong. Whether or not this person can go to the court, depending on the times when they've renewed in the past, if there was a mail to that effect or it just came automatically. But even though it's not guaranteed, but a communication breakdown had happened, and that was wrong. So if that had happened to me, even though I know I'm not taking to the court, I'll still make small trouble with my lawyer. I'll tell them to write them and maybe ask for compensation, because they didn't give me enough time to prepare for unemployment.
Thank you very much. Dr. Adeosun, over to you now.
Thank you so much, Madam Grace Oluwalola. Thank you so much,
Madam,
Uncle
you
K.
stop calling me Madam Grace. My name is OG.
OG for life. OG for life.
OG, Mama.
That was excellent. I'm glad we were able to pull this through because the topic is a special one, and
Thank you.
many people appreciate this kind of session in future when they have the opportunity to either interview or function in that capacity. Ladies and gentlemen, please, let's kindly unmute and let's thank OG for doing a great job.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much,
O-
Madam. God bless you.
OG, you have
Thank
done a
you.
fantastic work. Can I have your contact, please?
Yes, I'm putting it in the
You have done
yes,
fantastic
I'm just
work.
putting it
Thank you,
down.
OG Mama. Mama
Thank
OG, nice
you.
one. Thank you very
Thank
much. I
you.
appreciate.
Thank
I
you.
work in a donor-funded organization, but I just started my career in HR. And unfortunately, I do not have much information about the donor requirements and all. But I must say, I have learned a lot from you this night. Thank you very much, Mama OG. Thank you.
Thank you, Florence, my mommy's namesake. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Let me also say thank you
Thank you
to you,
very
ma'am.
much. Thank you.
A lot of the things you said resonated with me. I didn't work with a donor, but I worked in partnership with them when I was in Lagos State, and we had the DFID and all of them, working together as interventionists. So I really can, understand all of the things that you're saying, particularly when they're giving us technical advices and interventions. So thank you very much for those,
Thank
beautiful
you,
insight.
Papa.
Thank you,
Thank
ma'am.
you. Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Oyemi, you're there?
Yes, thank you, ma'am. We can end the call.
Thank you. All right.
Okay, thank you very much, OG. Yeah,
Have a good evening,
night,
everyone.
everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Bye,
We'll call
everyone.
it a wrap. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone. Bye. Thank you.